Hello everybody, this is Mr. Regner and this is our Chapter 3 review. We've got an upcoming test, and so this video will hopefully help you to review before that test. You might be wondering, what did we learn about in Chapter 3? Well, it was all about ratios. You might remember using tape diagrams to solve them, or using ratio tables, or graphing, or then we also learned about the idea of cross multiplication, or we sometimes call it the butterfly method, to solve ratio problems. So we're going to take a look at our Chapter 3 study guide and go through each question, and hopefully I will be able to explain how to answer each question along the way. Now, please keep in mind that this video could be very long because our study guide has a lot of questions on it. So feel free to fast forward, rewind on the video to answer the questions that you need to. So let's get it started with number 1. Now keep in mind it says, write the ratio in simplest form, then tell what type of ratio it is, part to whole, or whole to part. So big things here would be simplest form, and then what type of ratio, and it's almost like there's 3 choices there. So it wants to know the ratio of basketballs to soccer balls. So I'm going to count them up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 basketballs, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 soccer balls. Now that's a ratio of 6 to 4, but if I put it in simplest form, I actually could simplify these two numbers down because they're both divisible by 2. So I could divide 6 by 2 and get 3, and 4 by 2 and get 2. So really I could say the ratio is 3 to 2. I could also write that, by the way, as 3 to 2 as a fraction, or write 3 to 2. Now keep in mind I'm writing it this way on the video, but you only need to write it one way for the test. And then as far as what type it is, this is a part to part because I'm comparing basketballs, which are part of it, soccer balls, which are part of it. So it's part to part. None of my numbers in the ratio are dealing with all the soccer balls and basketballs. I'm going to say part to part. And there we go, that's number 1. Moving on, number 2 is a lot like number 1, which sounds kind of silly to say when there's no picture, but it's just like number 1 without the picture. There are 12 girls and 13 boys in a classroom. What is the ratio of girls to total students? So I want girls to total. Well, girls is obvious. It's going to be 12. And then total is going to be 12 plus 13. So I'm sure you could probably do this in your head, but just for fun, 2 plus 3 is 5, and 1 plus 1 is 2. That means there's 25 total. So I could write 12 girls to 25 total. And that would be my ratio. Again, I could write that as a fraction or with a colon. I added the labels here just to keep it straight in my head. Technically, you could write that without the labels and still be correct. The type of ratio here is a part. The girls are part to whole because you're talking about the whole class. So I'll say part to whole. And again, if you're looking for the type of ratio, you can always look back up at the top where you have those 3 options highlighted here in boldface type. All right, on to number 3. We have our first real ratio problem now to solve, where it says we have a tape diagram. Tape diagrams, remember, have a block to represent a portion of the total. So it says the monthly allowances total is $42 for you and your friend. So that means that each one of these blocks, they all add up to be 42. I can divide to figure out how much each block is worth. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks total. I'm going to take 42, the total, and divide it by the number of blocks, 7. Well, I happen to know that 7 times 6 is 42. So that means that each block is worth $6 in this example. So that means how much is each allowance? Well, your allowance will be 6 plus 6. That's going to be $12 for you. And your friend, that's 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, or 6 times 5, which is going to be 30. So you get $12, your friend gets 30. And again, I used a tape diagram to solve. Now, we may come back to this idea of number 3, because once we get into some of the other ratio problems starting on the next page, you may want to set up your own tape diagram to solve. That's one technique we can use. Moving on to number 4, it says Barb has a total of 21 pens. 9 of these pens are blue, and the rest are red. What is the ratio of blue pens to red pens? So blue to red, I want to write the ratio all 3 ways. That's why there's 3 lines. Okay? So there's total of 21. 9 of them are blue. So if 9 are blue, okay, and then 21 total, that means if I subtract, I'm going to figure out how many are red. So 21 minus 9 is going to leave me with 12. So, oops, I just lost my train of thought. All right, it's back now. What is the ratio of blue pens to red pens? That means I have 9 blue and 12 red. So I can write this as 9 colon 12, or I could write it as 9 to 12, or I could write it as 9 over 12, like a fraction. Those are the 3 ways. Colon, the word to, fraction. That's page 1 of our study guide. Moving along, here comes page 2. There it is. So number 5 is, again, one of our ratio problems that we've looked at before, where we want to set things up so we can solve it. Okay, if I'm just looking at this, it seems very jumbled and confusing. So let's break it down. Melanie's entire workout consisted of 10 minutes of warm-up exercises, 24 minutes of lifting weights, and 19 minutes on the treadmill. What was the ratio of the number of minutes she spent on the treadmill to the number of minutes, or the total number of minutes of her entire workout? So I want to figure out the treadmill to the total. Now, treadmill is pretty easy because it's right here, 19 minutes. So I've got part of my ratio already. The other part is the total. Well, the total is 19 plus 24 plus 10, because those are the 3 things that they did at the gym. So 9 plus 4 is 13, and then 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. That means it's a ratio of 19 to 53. 19 on the treadmill, 53 total. Not too bad, but a little bit of work to have to do there off to the side. Moving on to number 6. Now we get the dolphin question. I think we've looked at this before, if I'm not mistaken. So a dolphin made 204 leaps in 12 hours. At this rate, how many leaps did the dolphin make in 7 hours? So here's where I can start with my labels. I'm going to say leaps and hours. There were 204 leaps in 12 hours. Then I'm going to make an equivalent ratio and figure out how many leaps they would make in 7 hours. So you don't have to make the box, but I think the box helps me anyway to know that that's what I'm looking for. So here there's a couple ways that I can handle this. Okay, I can look at 12 and think, what am I doing to 12 to get to 7? Clearly I'm dividing because it's becoming smaller. But now I have to think, well, it can't be 12 divided by 2 because that would be 6. Okay, it can't be 12 divided by 12, that would be 1. All right, the best way to handle this is to divide. Take 12 divided by 7 and then figure out what I'm dividing by. So 12 divided by 7. 7 goes into 12 one time. That would be 7. If I subtract, I end up with 5. Now here's where we could add a decimal and keep on going with zeros brought down, but it might be easiest for us in this situation to just simply look at this as a fraction. I have a remainder of 5 and a divisor of 7. That means I have 1 and 5/7. Okay, so I'm going to take 12 divided by, look, I made a multiplication sign on accident, divided by 1 and 5/7 is going to equal 7. So I need to take 204 and divide by 1 and 5/7. Remember, whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Whatever I do to the top, I do to the bottom. It's like I'm multiplying or dividing by a form of 1. So with that in mind, let me just go ahead and set this up and divide. So I have 204, which I'll put over 1. I'll divide by 7 times 1 is 7, plus 5 gives me 12. That's 12/7. I'm going to keep change flip, so that's 204 over 1 times 7 over 12. So now I want to think, what can I do to reduce this down? I see 204, and obviously 2 goes into it. So I can cut that in half. That would be 102, and then 12 would be 6. Well, now I still have 102 and 6. 2 can go into both of those. So that would be 3, and this would be 51. Now I look at 3 and 51, and you might think, well, that's as far as I can go. But actually, 3 does go into 51. Think about it. 3 goes into 5 one whole time. That would be a remainder of 2. Bring down the 1. that would be 21, and 3 goes into 21 7 times. So this is actually 17 times 3 is 51, and then 3 divided by 3 is 1. All right, so I end up with an answer of 17 because that'd be 17 over 1. Nope, I'm sorry. I just messed that all up. So I take 7 times 17 to get my answer. So 7 times 7 is 49, and 7 times 1 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11. That means I have 119 over 1, or 119 leaps that are made in 7 hours. Again, kind of complicated there. I tried the technique where I was just setting it up as equivalent ratios and then figured out what to divide by. And I divide the top by the same thing. We'll try a different technique maybe for the next one, and that would be number 7. Again, you should hopefully settle into a technique that works best for you. All right, so Hermione, I can't remember how that's pronounced, but it's the Harry Potter character. She earns $6 per hour for walking a dog. How many hours must she work to earn $153? Okay, so if she is making $6 per hour, so we'll say dollars and hours. So we can say that $6 for 1 hour. And then how much must she work to earn $153? And I know that looks weird to have my dollar sign at the end of a number, but I did that just to kind of keep the labels lined up. So basically I'm thinking, what am I doing to 6 to get to 153? And I would do the same to 1. So that's not too bad. I could use like repeated addition here, 6, 12, 18, but who has the time for that? Again, might be easiest to take 153 divided by 6. So 6 goes into 15. That would probably be 2 times. That's 12. That would be 3, and bring down my 3. And 6 goes into 33 5 times. That would be 30. And then I have 3 remaining. That gives me 3/6, or I could think of that and reduce it down into 1/2. That means I'm multiplying by 25 and 1/2 both times on the top and the bottom. So this really works out well because it's a unit rate. 1 times 25 and a half is just 25 and a half. So in 25 and a half hours, she's going to earn $153. That one kind of worked out well to just do the equivalent ratios like that. Let's try out number 8. It says to clean a tank, 3/4 cup of disinfectant is needed for every 5 gallons of water. How many cups of disinfectant are needed for 51 gallons of water? All right, so this is, again, maybe it seems complicated, but we'll just set it up with our labels first and go from there. So we'll say cups and gallons. Okay, so we need 3/4 cups for every 5 gallons of water. I'm going to say that's going to be equivalent to a certain number of cups, and it tells me 51 gallons. So what am I doing to 5 to get to 51? And then what would I be doing to 3/4 to get to my unknown answer? So again, I'm going to have to multiply. 5 times something equals 51. Here's where I can divide again. So 5 goes into 5 one whole time. That would be 5. I'll bring down a 1, and 5 goes into 1 0 times. So that means I have a remainder of 1/5, because my remainder is 1. 5 is my divisor. So that means I'm multiplying 5 times 10 and 1/5 to get to my answer of 51. So I'm going to multiply times 10 and 1/5 to get to my answer over here. So now I can take 3/4 times 10 and 1/5. I'm going to convert that really quickly. So I'll take 5 times 10, that's 50, plus 1, that's 51. That's 51 over 5. So now I want to look for common factors here, and I'm not really seeing anything jumping off the page at me. So I'm just going to multiply straight across. 3 times 51, that's going to be 153. And then 4 times 5, that's going to be 20. So I get 153 over 20. That looks like an improper fraction. I definitely want to reduce that into a mixed number. So that means 153 is going to be divided by 20. So 20 doesn't go into 1, doesn't go into 15, and it must go into 153. So let me just count by 2s here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So I'm going to go with 7. 7 times on that. 7 times 20 is 140. I'll subtract. I end up with 3 and 1 and 0. So 13 is my remainder. That means I could say this is 13 20ths. So I'm going to have 7 and 13 20ths cups for my 51 gallons. All right, that is our second page through number 8. Moving on to number 9. Here it is. You bake cookies for a bake sale, and the ratio of chocolate chip to oatmeal is 4 to 9. You bake 15 oatmeal cookies, so how many chocolate chip cookies do you bake? So for this one, I'm going to kind of mix it up a little bit. I think I'm going to make a ratio table. So I'm going to call my chocolate chip CC and my oatmeal O, just to save some time. That ratio is chocolate chip is 4, oatmeal is 9. So I'm going to make 4 boxes for my chocolate chip, and then 9, I'll try to make them about the same size. There we go. About the same size there. So if this is equal to 15, I want to figure out then what this is going to be equal to. Okay? And I do that because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I can take 15 divided by 9. 9 goes into 15 one time, and I have a remainder of 6. That's 6 ninths. Or I could simplify that down and say that it is 1 2/3. That means each one of these boxes is 1 2/3. Now I'm wishing I would have made this much bigger so you could make it out on the video here, but hey, it is what it is. So I have 1 2/3 plus 1 2/3 plus 1 2/3 plus 1 2/3, or I could think of that as 1 2/3 times 4, because there's 4 boxes. So that means I'm going to take 4 over 1 times 1 2/3. I know I could multiply 3 times 1 for 3, plus 2, that would be 5 over 3. I don't see any common factors to cross-simplify, so 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 3 is 3. So now I want to reduce that down. I'll take 20 divided by 3. 3 goes into 20. Let's see here, probably what, 9 would not work. 8 would not work. 7 would not work. 6 would work. So 6 times 3 is 18. That would be a remainder of 2/3. So that means I have 6 2/3 chocolate chip cookies. So I'll maybe rewrite that. 6 2/3 chocolate chip cookies. Now, that does not really make a lot of sense, and you might sort of reject that idea that you can have 2/3 of a cookie. That's the way the numbers work out. All right, so if it's that way on the test, just understand that you may have a number that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, considering the fact that we don't have a full cookie there, and nobody wants a cookie that is not a full cookie. Let's move on to number 10. A school earns $189 from selling 42 tickets to the choir concert. Each ticket costs the same price. What is the unit cost of a ticket? All right, so when I see unit cost, I think that means the price of one, right? One is a unit. So I have money. I have $189, and I have 42 tickets. I want to figure out the unit cost, the cost then for just one ticket. Boy, that got sloppy. All right, so in order to figure this out, I just simply divide. I take 189 divided by 42. And again, I did that because 42 divided by 42 equals 1. That means I take 189 divided by 42. Whenever I'm finding the unit cost, I'm always taking the number divided by the other number to figure out that bottom number will be 1. So, let me do this over here. 189 divided by 42. So 42 doesn't go into 1, doesn't go into 18, it must go into 189. I'm going to do some guessing and checking. I'm going to guess maybe 3 times just to see if that works out. So 2 times 3 is 5, 3 times 4 is 16. That's 165. I'm pretty close. let's see, if I add another 42 on there, I'm definitely going to be over. So I'm going to go with 3. I already figured it out. It's 165. So now I subtract. I get 4 and 2. That's 24. That means I'm going to have a remainder of 24 over 42. But if I look at those numbers, I could definitely reduce them down. Okay? So if I were to reduce them down, pardon me, I could just simplify maybe by 2's. So I'll take this down to 21. I'll take this down to 12. That's 12 over 21. Okay, I can think of those numbers and think about 3, because 3 goes into 12 4 times, and 3 goes into 21 7 times. That means I have 3 and 4 sevenths. But if I'm talking about money, right, probably fractions are not really the way to go. Maybe decimals will work out better. So if I go back and rethink this, maybe I'll add that decimal on there, add that 0, and then think about 420 going into 240. I'm going to again do some guessing and checking here, and maybe I'll guess 5. So 5 times 2 is 0, with the 1 up top. 5 times 4 is 20 plus 1, that's 21. So that's pretty close, right? I'm kind of looking at this here. I kind of jumbled up the whole thing here. So we'll go ahead and say that there's a 5. I'll rewrite the answer up here just for fun. So that would be 5 times 42, which is 210. I get 30. Bring down another 0. That would be 300. So now I want to think about how many times 42 would go into 300. Well, let me just do another guess and check. If I add another 42 onto 210, I'd probably get 252. If I add another 42 onto that, I get 294. That's probably as far as I can go. So that would be 7. That would be 294 with a remainder of 6. Whenever I'm talking about money, I want to stop at the hundreds place and round. And my answer here, 42 going into 60, would be like 1. So I'm going to say my answer is $3.57. Again, I could have kept this as a fraction and said that it would be $3.04, I think was my answer there. Oops. 3 and 4 sevenths dollars, and 4 sevenths would be 57 cents. All right, moving on, we have our next problem. This is Tanner and his skateboard. I'm sure you guys might remember this one from class as well. Pardon me again. So Tanner was able to skateboard 10 miles in 3 hours. I'm going to say my labels here are miles and hours. I went 10 miles in 3 hours. At the same rate, what's the total number of miles Tanner could skateboard in 5 hours? So I ultimately want to figure out then how far he's going to go in 5 hours. Okay? But notice what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of just going from 3 to 5, which I could take 5 divided by 3 and figure out what I'm multiplying by, I'm going to take this down to a unit rate. I'm going to figure out how far he can go in 1 hour. I'm going to do that by dividing by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I need to take 10 divided by 3. So 3 goes into 10 3 times. That would be 9. I get 1 remaining. That's 3 1/3 mile. So he goes 3 1/3 mile in 1 hour. What I've done here is another strategy we can use for almost any of these problems. Broke it down to a unit rate. Now that I know this, it might be easier to multiply by 5. So since I'm multiplying by 5 here, I'll multiply by 5 here. Again, to multiply by 5, I'll go ahead and multiply 3 times 3, that's 9, plus 1, that's 10. That's 10 thirds times 5. That's 5 over 1. So 10 times 5 is 50, and 3 times 1 is 3. So if I divide now 50 divided by 3, 3 goes into 20, 6 times, so that's 16 2/3 miles. And there you have it. So again, that's another way we could do that, break it down into a unit rate. It might make it easier for you in some problems just to multiply. Move on now to number 12. During the 5K race, the student council members served 26 gallons of water to the runners. How many cups of water did they serve? Keep in mind, 5K race means nothing to us. We can just say during the race. All right, they served 26 gallons of water, and how many cups did they serve? So I know it's going to be gallons to cups. Okay, now here is where some people are going to remember this from class. We know that there's 26 gallons. We have to know this other ratio. And this is one of those common conversions that we learned about. So you might remember the big G, right? You get the big giant gallon. Inside of there, there are 4 quarts. Inside of each quart, there's 2 pints. And again, I probably drew this too small. Inside of each of those pints, there are 2 cups. So again, if you want to recreate this on your page, you can. That means there's 2 cups, 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 2 cups. So that would be 2 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because there's 8 pints. There's 2 cups in a pint. 2 times 8 is 16. There's 16 cups in 1 gallon. If I know that, this is going to make the whole thing work. If I don't know that, it makes the whole thing impossible. Alright, since I'm taking 1 times 26 to get 26, I need to take 16 times 26. So 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. Add my placeholder 0, multiply by 1, now add them up. I get 6 plus 0 is 6, 5 plus 6 is 11, 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 2 is 4. That's 416 cups. So again, if we start with our labels, if we remember those common conversions, number 12 is going to be pretty easy for us. Moving on now to number 13. Ooh, there it is. It says, Evan paid $4.76 for 14 erasers. At this rate, how much would it cost Evan to buy 11 erasers? Well, I'm going to go and make my ratio here. 14 erasers, and that was $4.76. I'm going to say that he's going to buy 11 erasers. So I'm going to say erasers, or did I say racers? I don't even know what I said anymore. Alright, so we have 14 and 11. Again, this might be a good one to break it down to a unit rate. And we could do that. Or we could just kind of go straight at it. 14 divided by 11. That's going to tell me then what I'm doing to 14 to get to 11. So let me do it that way here. Okay, so 11 goes into 14 one whole time. That would be 11. I'd subtract. I get 3. That means it's 1 and 3/11ths. So that means I'm dividing 14 by 1 and 3/11ths to get 11. That means I can divide $4.76 by 1 and 3/11ths to end up with my answer. And the only problem with this is I have 0.76, that's a decimal. I have 3/11ths, that's a fraction. They don't really play well. I want to convert them so that they're on the same playing field. So really, I guess I probably should have, once again, gone with a decimal here. So 11 goes into 30 2 times. I'm just going to write over top of my other work. That was very clear. So 2 times 11 is 22. I get 8. 11 goes into 80. 7 times, that would be 77. You get a 3. And it just kind of keeps on going from there. So I can say like 1.27. I can say 3/11ths, kind of the same things. Alright, this is where we might want to do our division work. So I'll say, I'll put this over here. 476 divided by 1.27. I move my decimals over, move it to the top. 127 goes into 476 now. So I'll guess maybe 4 times. Let me check that out real quick. 7 times 4 is 28. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2 is 10. 4 times 1 plus 1 is 5. That's 508. Ooh, I was a little bit over. So I'll say 3. So that means 3 times 127. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. That's 381. And I probably should have used an extra sheet of paper to work this out. So I'm not very easy to follow here on my video. I apologize for that. So we end up with 5. I borrow the 3. That would become a 17. And 17 minus 8 is 9. That would be 95. And I could add a 0 and bring it down. That's 950. And I could continue to divide from there. So I'm going to guess maybe I'll guess 7. Let's see what happens. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 2 is 14. Plus 4 is 18. 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 1 is 15. Oops, that's 7 times 2 is 14. Plus 4 is 18. And 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. So that's 889. Man, okay, so that one is 889. And this is 7. And then add another 0 and bring it down after subtracting. And if you're watching this on the video, you're probably thinking, this is insane. We get 61 with a 0 brought down. Again, very difficult to follow, and I apologize. So we'll round that, we want to figure out how many times 127 goes into 610. So looking at my work here, if I add another 127 to this, it's going to be over 610. So that's going to be a 4. So I come up with 374, and I would round the answer to that point because it's money. So it costs $3.74 for 11 erasers. Boy, I'm going to have to use a scrap sheet of paper on this test, and you should too. All right, here comes number 14. This is one where we want to look at a unit rate. It's even underlined on your study guide, and it'll be underlined on your test. So I'm going to go ahead and write out each of my ratios that are presented to make it super easy for me to see the unit rate. Remember, unit rate means we're looking for a 1. So if Jordan Walks Dogs makes $30 in 4 hours, there's no 1 there, not a unit rate. Christine handed out 3 pieces of candy to each of the trick-or-treaters. That's 3 candies to each 1 trick-or-treater. That's a unit rate. Jenna paid $55 for 3 concert tickets. Not a unit rate. No 1. Joan drove down Genoa Road and traveled 40 miles per hour. That's 40 miles per hour, 1 hour. That's a unit rate. Dave makes 3 parts concrete with 1 quart when making... Oh, I read that as concrete. You can tell how late it is making this video. 3 parts concentrate with 1 quart when making juice. That's 3 to 1. That's a unit rate. And Lacey makes gift baskets and adds 3 chocolate bars to each one. That's 3 bars to each one. That's a unit rate. So my answers are B, D, E, and F. Moving on, now we get to some of these conversions that we need to know on numbers 15 and 16. So 3 feet to an unknown amount of yards. Oops, 37 feet to an unknown amount of yards. So I know there are 3 feet in 1 yard. And if I know that, then I can figure out how many yards there are in 37 feet. So I think about what I'm doing. 3 multiplying by something to get 37. So I'm going to take 37, divide by 3. 3 goes into 3 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. That's 0. Bring down my 7. 3 goes into 7 2 times. That's 6. Subtract them up with 1. That's 1/3. So that means I'm multiplying 3 times 12 and 1/3. That means I'm multiplying 1 times 12 and 1/3. That would be 12 and 1/3 yards. Down here I have pounds and ounces. So we should remember that there's 16 ounces in 1 pound. If we know that, that's going to make this problem a lot easier. Otherwise, we're just stuck, and it's going to be almost impossible. So I'm going to figure out how many ounces there are in 9 pounds. So I'm clearly multiplying 1 times 9 to get to 9. So let me take 16 times 9 and figure out my unknown answer here. So 16 times 9. 6 times 9 is 54. 9 times 1 is 9. Plus 5 is 14. That means there's 144 ounces in 9 pounds. And that actually completes part 1 of our test, but not our study guide. Our study guide rolls right along into what will be part 2 of your test. So on part 2, these are mostly word problems, solving problems, doing a little bit of extra work to figure out what we need to solve. So let's start off with number 1. There's 80 students in student council, and the ratio of girls to boys is 6-4. How many girls are in the student council? Well, that's a good question. If I know there's 6-4, okay, girls, that means there's 6 of them. If there's 10 of them in a room, 6 of them are girls, but there's 80 of them. So I want to think if the total is 10, I'm multiplying that by 8 to equal the total of 80. So that means if the girls are 6, I'm going to multiply that by 8 to equal 6 times 8 is 48. So there are 48, girls in student council. So that's total to girls. And I figured that out because I figured out the part to part, took it to a part to whole, or in this case a whole to part, and then I multiplied them both by 8. Okay, so I had my ratios there that I worked out. On number 2, we have a chef who makes 2 containers of soup that fill a total of 110 soup bowls. Each container of soup costs $6.60 to make. What's the cost per bowl of soup? Alright, so this one is going to be a little bit tricky. I want to do almost 2 different ratio problems. So I have containers. I have 2 containers, and those 2 containers make 110 bowls. Okay, so I'm going to figure out then how many bowls are going to be in one container. So I'll do like a unit rate. Okay, and I would do that by dividing by 2. Now 110 divided by 2 is going to be 55. So there's 55 bowls in one container. Okay, this first ratio problem sort of told me that. Now it says each container costs $6.60. That means this container was $6.60, so 55 bowls are also $6.60. So that means 55 bowls cost $6.60. I want to figure out how much it's going to cost then for one bowl. I would be dividing by 55 to get one bowl. That means I divide by 55 to figure out my cost. So here I am. Look, I'm learning from my experiences, and I'm pulling out a scrap sheet of paper for this math, so I have plenty of room here. All right, so I'm going to take $6.60 and divide it by 55. Now notice I'm not moving this decimal other than just to move it up. So 55 doesn't go into 6, but does go into $6.66, one time. That would be 55. I'll subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1, 6 minus 5 is still 1, that's 11. Bring down my 0, and 55 goes into 110 2 times. That would be 110 with no remainder. So the cost of each bowl would be 12 cents. Or really 1/1200th of a dollar, but really that's 12 cents. So again, 2 ratio problems that I had to solve here. First, take it down to a unit rate, then figure out how much one container costs, or how many bowls there are in one container, and go from there. Moving on, now in number 3 we have a comparison. Meal A has 195 calories and 5 servings. That's for meal A. Meal B has 152 calories in 4 servings. So I'm going to figure out which meal has more calories per serving. So to do this, I'm going to do a unit rate. I'm going to take it down to 1 serving for each of these. So we have an unknown amount of calories for each. Once I break it down into a unit rate, it's going to be easy to figure out which one has more per serving. So again, I'm going to go to my scrap paper here. And I know that I'm taking 5 divided by 5 to get to 1. So I take 195 and divide by 5. So 5 goes into 19 3 times. That's 15. I subtract, I get 4. I bring down a 5. 5 goes into 45 9 times. That's 45. And I get 0. So that means that 195 divided by 5 is 39. There's 39 calories in 1 serving for meal A. That sounds like a great contender, but I want to continue to do the math for meal B just to see if maybe there are more calories in meal B. All right, so I have 4 servings divided by 4, that's 1. So I'm going to take 152 and divide by 4. So 4 goes into 15, let's see, 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. 15 minus 12 is 3. Bring down my 2, and 4 goes into 32. 8 times, that would be 32. And I get 38. So there's 38 calories in meal B. That means meal A has more calories. So again, all we're doing here is just looking at the relationship of the ratios that we're finding in the problems. Take a look at now number 4. A pint of strawberries costs $3.15. For a sale, the store offers a third pint free if you buy 2 pints at the regular price. Find the unit price of a pint of strawberries when you buy 3 on sale. So let's just figure this out. So I'm going to buy them on sale, meaning I'm getting the third one free. That means I'm going to take $3.15 plus $3.15, or multiply it by 2. 5 plus 5 is 10. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. And of course, I've lined up my decimals and just brought it down. And now 3 plus 3 is 6. So it costs $6.30 for 2. The third one's free, meaning it costs $6.30 for 3 pints. Again, some people have a hard time with this. That third pint is free. That's why I didn't add it in here. So if I'm trying to find the unit rate then, or how much it costs for 1 pint of strawberries, I would just simply figure out what I'm doing here. So I have 3 divided by 3 to equal 1. That means I need to take $6.30 divided by 3. So let me take out my trusty extra paper again, just so we can see it all very clearly. $6.30 divided by 3. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. That leaves me with nothing. Bring down a 3. 3 goes into 3 1 time. That would be 3. That leaves me with 0. Bring down a 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times. That means it costs $2.10 a pint when you buy 3. Again, I got my label on there already, thanks to the work I did with that ratio. So that is page 1 of what will be part 2 of your test. And we're getting towards the end now of our study guide. Only 2 more pages to go, right? Alright, so let's take a look. We've got number 5. A recipe uses 4 parts of sugar for every 5 parts of flour. Complete the ratio table. Well, there it is, 4 to 5. That's what they told me. So look at what they're doing between 4 and 8. It looks like I'm multiplying by 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. Or I could be adding another 4 and then adding another 5, depending on how you want to look at that. I have 5 multiplied by 3 is 15, or 10, adding another 5. That means I need to add another 4, or multiply 4 times 3 to get 12. Same thing here, I've got 16. I could think of it as 4 times 4, and 5 times 4, or I'm taking 12 plus another 4, so 15 plus another 5. Either way, I get 20. Then if we use 16 cups of sugar, here it is. How much flour do we use? We use 20 cups of flour. Again, the answer is right there in that table. On number 6, Chrissy is saving to buy an $800 motorbike by working during summer vacation. The job pays $8 for every 1 hour. That's $8 for 1 hour. She works exactly 28 hours each week. Okay? So this is going to tell us then how much money she makes for 1 week. So 1 times 28, that means I need to take 8 times 28. So let me do the math here if I can. Oops. I drew a line there instead. Oops. Alright, so 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 6 is 22. Hold on a minute. I lost my train of thought again. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 6 is 22. Okay. I just wanted to make sure of that. So now I have $224 in 1 week. If there's $224, again, I'm setting up another ratio here. In 1 week, I want to figure out how much money she's going to make in 4 weeks. I'm multiplying by 4. So 224 multiplied by 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 4 times 2 is 8. That's $896 that she's going to make in 4 weeks. If the bike is $800, how much money will she have left over? So I'm going to take 896, subtract 800, and she's going to have $96 left over. There's my answer for number 6. Again, that's number 6 on part 2. Number 7, this one's really a think it out type question. The quiz contains spelling and grammar questions. The ratio of spelling to total is 2 to 5. So I'm going to circle all the statements that are true about the quiz. So spelling is 2, the total is 5. That doesn't mean that there's only 5 questions. There could be 10, in which case there'd be 4 spelling, right? But if there were 5, right, that meant I could figure out that the grammar there'd be 3, right? 2 spelling, 3 grammar, 5 total. Now if there's 10, those numbers all double. If there's 15, they all triple. You get the idea. So, letter A, the ratio of spelling questions to grammar is 5 to 2. Well, no, that wouldn't be true at all, because if spelling is 2, grammar has to be 3. So A is wrong. The ratio of spelling questions to grammar is 2 to 3. Spelling would be 2, grammar would be 3. That's correct. The ratio of grammar questions to total is 3 to 7. Let's see, grammar would be 3, the total would have to be 5. That cannot be right. The ratio of total questions to spelling is 7 to 2. Well, total's got to be 5, and spelling would still be 2, so that's not right. And then there are 3 more grammar questions than spelling questions. This is where it gets tricky. Let's think here. So I have spelling, I have grammar. Even if there's only 5 questions, there's only 1 more grammar question, right? Now, if there's 15, then in that case there would be 3 more, but we don't know that for sure. So to say that's true is really difficult to do. In fact, we'd probably say that's not true since we don't have the specific information of how many questions there are on the quiz. So that is number 7. Again, that's a think it out question. Not a lot of work to do on that one other than mental work. Our last question is a graphing question. So it says your school organizes a clothing drive as a fundraiser for a class trip. The school earns $50 for every 100 pounds of donated clothing. Represent the ratio relationship and complete the table and then graph the relationship. So a lot's going on here. First, we've got a table, then we have a graph. It tells me pounds and money earned, but it doesn't have numbers. So I'm going to have to put those numbers in. To help me with that, I'm going to actually start on the table. So if the ratio is $50 for every 100 pounds, if there's 200 pounds, that number doubled, this number has to double. That's going to be 100. Okay, now I look at this. If I've just added another 50, it means I add another 100. Or if I'm taking 50 times 3, I take 100 times 3. That would be 300 pounds of clothing. Now, if this number quadrupled, 100 times 4, to get 400, I could take 50 times 4. Or if I think of it this way, I'm just adding another 100, that means I add another 50. Either way, I end up with $200. Alright, so the highest numbers I go on the money earned here is up to 200. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe, just for fun, I'll go by 50s here. So I'll say 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, and I can keep going, but that's really all I need to label. On the pounds of clothing, I go all the way up to 400. So if I go 50s, that'd be 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. That would work out. So I'll go ahead and do that. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. So my writing got very small there. Again, we could always skip too. If I had just labeled like 100, 200, and skipped every other one, it could be implied then that in between is halfway. So now let me graph. Remember, I have pounds of clothing on the bottom. So that's going to be my X variable, or what I start with. I go over X and up Y. So over 100, that's right here, and up 50, and make a dot right there. And then I go over 200 and up 100. Over 200, up 100 will be right there. Over 300 and up 150, that'll be right here. And then over 400 and up 200, it'll be right here. With all of my dots, I can now draw a straight line. And keep in mind, if I had 0 pounds of clothing, and that'd be 0 money earned. So I'm always starting here at 0, 0. I'm just going to connect those dots with a straight line if I can, and that's my graph. Now it says, how much money did your school earn for donating 2,500 pounds of clothing? Well, I can go back up here and look at my original ratio and then make an equivalent ratio. So if I want to go with 400 and 200 or 150, I'm just going to go with the basic here. 100 pounds is $50. Okay, so knowing that, what am I doing to 100 to get to 2,500? I'm multiplying it by 25. So that means I need to multiply 50 times 25. So 50 times 25. So 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 5 is 25, add a placeholder 0, 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 5 is 10. I have 0, 5, 2, and 1. That means that the school is going to earn $1,250 for 2,500 pounds of clothing. And that is our entire Chapter 3 review. This video is probably like one of our longest videos that we're going to probably ever see. I think I'm at 51 minutes, which is kind of crazy. So again, I don't encourage you to watch the whole video, but maybe just skip around to the questions that you need. Hopefully this helps you out, and hopefully it will do you wonders on your Chapter 3 test.